Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the show. This episode is brought to you by The Wellness Paradigm, a holistic health coaching company shifting the way that women understand and heal their bodies. Through bioenergetic testing, functional lab testing, and functional nutrition, we uncover what traditional approaches often overlook, so you can stop guessing, start healing, and finally feel like yourself again. No more one-size-fits-all protocols, just real answers, deep-rooted healing, and the clarity and confidence you deserve to feel incredible. It's time to shift the paradigm of women's health. Now on to our show. And hello, Angela,
Hi, good to be here. Thanks for having me.
of course, and thank you for being here. I'm looking forward to some of the magic you're going to share with us today, no pun intended, because Angela is the owner of Elemental Magic, and she has a really interesting approach weaving so many different modalities between Akashic Records, ancestral healing, somatic practices, parts work, and she really helps women reconnect with their themselves again and heal their past. So I'd love to learn a little bit more on, you know, who you really work with, but also what weaved you into this line of work.
Oh my goodness, what weaved me into it? I guess it started with being in a toxic relationship that where I really lost my identity and moving into that phase of being the wife and the mom and trying to have my own business, but not really devoting much time to that because I had so many other responsibilities at home that I was taking care of. And eventually I got to a point one day where I found I had Hashimoto's. I started going through perimenopause, and all these different things were going on in my life, food sensitivities galore. And was just like, what the heck is going on right now? I don't even have time to sleep, I feel like. And now I'm trying to figure out health issues and whatnot. So, all of these different things set me on this path of learning about energy work and the Akashic Records and healing the past, as well as nutrition and herbalism. So, kind of all these modalities come together into what I bring forward in my uh, sessions and groups with people today. So, it's been quite the journey in finding my voice again.
Oh man, and we can go down a whole journey on finding your voice and how that relates to thyroid issues.
Yeah.
Uh, but I think that's really interesting. So many, we were talking a little bit before this, so many of my clients, so many people have Hashimoto's thyroid issues, and, they're taking it for maybe a nutrition first protocol, which is incredible, right? That's one of my main
Right.
pillars too. But, there's such a deeper healing that happens when you understand things like emotions, and you mentioned past lives. And I think for also people listening who have never heard of Akashic Records, what is Akashic Records?
So the Akashic Records are this etheric realm where every decision your soul has ever made is quote unquote documented, and it's a space that we can access. I usually do it during meditation, or I guide people through a meditation to access that space to bring forth information and healing, so that we don't have to walk forward with this trauma, because usually I'm a big believer that everything our body is experiencing right now is related to trauma from the past, and whether that's childhood or 2 weeks ago or ancestors and our ancestral past or a past life. I feel like a lot of these things all of these things come into our body, and our body expresses it in different ways, whether it's gut things or shoulder issue or thyroidism. All of these things come forward to us and we have the opportunity to explore it and learn more about it. And the Akashic Records can be a really great tool for folks to explore, where does this come from? What's at the root? And that's one of the things I love doing, is finding the root. Mm.
Yeah, somebody that's in quotation root cause healing, I almost get a little annoyed when I hear this all the time in my profession because, it's all these people talking about root causes, and the root cause isn't necessarily candida or
Right.
parasite
Hmm.
or even, minerals, right? I talk about that a lot with my clients because they are absolutely important and a part of the journey, but root goes so much deeper, right? It goes into these emotions. Yeah, I would be curious because past lives is something I know I've been newer to in the last few years. Um, you know, um, Trauma, I understand, plays a huge role. But somebody who's maybe newer to understanding things like ancestral healing, past lives, this is a new kind of weird term for them. Like, how do you go about working with clients and helping them understand that these patterns that they're carrying on through their, lineage, are impacting them in the physical today?
Sure. Um, the first thing we do is sit down and just chat about what somebody's currently experiencing. And so if we're looking at a health issue, whether it's Hashimoto's or digestive issues or, even if it's relationship stuff,
Mhm.
I'll ask questions about, well, what was your experience as a child? Were you allowed to express what you wanted? Were you allowed to cry? Um, what did you see growing up between your parents? What did you experience with your grandparents and siblings? And so learning some of these things is valuable because we can see if there's an ancestral piece coming in. Well, mom did it this way, and so did grandma, and her grandma before that, where, the woman didn't have a voice in the household. And so if you grew up with a lineage of submissive women who were overpowered by their husbands, then it's likely that you're going to have that experience in your own life. And certainly I experienced that in mine, where my mom was submissive. My grandmothers both were married to, well, one in particular, married to a powerful man. And so that's what I saw. And then I saw that in my own marriage where I got to where I wasn't speaking my truth. And so I guide people through a visualization where we ask to see or learn about the first ancestor who experienced this. So we can help her heal. And then we ask that healing to come down through the whole lineage to the physical today, knowing that we're stopping this cycle so that future generations don't have this same experience. And ancestral healing also takes place in the Akashic Records. It's not just about my own past lives, it's about anything in the past. So I've done sessions where, if we're looking at the voice in particular, women have been, or people have been hung for speaking up, or maybe they were um, um, a speaker for a pharaoh or somebody like that, and they got killed for that. In future generations or in future lifetimes, then they have thyroidism, thyroid cancer, all kinds of different things going on with the voice, swallowing issues, anything with the throat, I should say. And we're able to do some healing around that and ideally improve the situation, whether that's having better labs or just better physical health overall, even if it's just changing in the mindset of knowing, hey, I'm safe to speak my truth now. That's huge. The labs don't always reflect the work that we've done, e- especially immediately, because as you know, all of our health things are very layered, multifaceted.
Yes, understatement for sure.
Right.
But just improving quality of life for people, I'd be curious what the biggest, like some one or two maybe breakthroughs that clients have had using these kind of modalities, like where they came in working with you versus what shifted and changed during your time together.
Oh, I've had several sessions where people have been able to heal relationships with their parents simply by finding that healing within themselves. So that's been huge, where we will look at things that happened in childhood and just them realizing where this trauma was held in the body and then talking to the body and that younger self. So doing that inner child work as well. We're able to then release this trauma from the body. So, you know, maybe they were experiencing this pain in their hip or their knee. We're doing this work with the knee and the 5-year-old self who fell down because dad pushed her, whether it was intentional or not. She's able to heal this injury in her knee, or this discomfort, I should say, in the knee, and work on forgiveness with dad and herself, and leave that day and be like, wow, I feel like I can have a decent conversation with my dad now because I don't have to be scared of him anymore. I'm an adult. So that's something that actually happens pretty frequently, is just this healing, releasing this trauma from the body. The knee doesn't hurt anymore, and we can find a different relationship with parents. Um, some of the other things that have come forward have just been having more confidence to move forward in business opportunities as we um, dive into the self-doubt and lack of confidence that happened in childhood by people who were bullied. And so doing some healing work around that with the energy of the bully and releasing that trauma from the body. Um, so those have been some big situations that have come forward, just getting more um, clear about life going forward, and that we're not that 5-year-old anymore. We're not the witch who got burned at the stake. We're not the um, wife who was abused in Roman times. Whatever the situation is, we can access that through the Akashic Records and also allow the body to release that trauma.
Yeah, it's interesting we mentioned about physical pain too. I think people really forget this, as somebody who has dealt with chronic pain my whole life, been able to heal that, but we think it's a cartilage issue in the knee, right?
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
meniscus, whatever, or it's a rotator cuff issue in my shoulder or a frozen shoulder, and it's like, but none of the therapies are working. Um,
Right.
and I obviously have my own modalities through, different bioresonance work, but I've seen so much shift happen so quickly with bioresonance and energy work, frequency versus just like a supplement, right? Um,
Mhm.
and, weaving in this energy,
Right.
when you're working with them, are you asking them to point to where there's pain? Are you feeling where there is pain? Are you seeing like how does that kind of work with? Because I mean, well, I understand, emotions get trapped in the body, and that
Mhm.
could be in a joint, right? A shoulder, a nip, and a nip, maybe your nips, your hip, a knee, something like that.
Right.
But how does that work with
Mhm.
when you're working with a client?
Well, every client's different. And I'm empathic. I feel that we all have empathic abilities where we sense emotions or feelings from other people. But when I'm in a session, I'm very tuned into that person. And so often, as I'm leading them on this visualization to get to the root of whatever we're working on, I may feel something in my body. And I'm like, all right, tune into your body. Once we get into when they've found this situation that is ready to be healed, and we do the healing work around it, then I'll say, all right, tune into your body. How's your body feeling? They're like, gosh, my left knee is really bothering me right now. And ironically enough, that's usually where I felt it in my body. And so then we'll tune into that. And sometimes they don't notice. Maybe they're so caught up in the scene or the feelings that they're experiencing And they're like, "Oh, I don't notice anything." I'm like, "Well, how are your jaws feeling right now?" "Oh my gosh, they're so tight. Like my jaws hurt so bad." I'm like, "Yeah, okay, so let's dive into that." So, what are your jaws trying to tell you? What is it you need to say to this person who hurt you so badly? And then that's, as the emotions start to flow then and we release that energy, all of a sudden their jaws feel a lot better. Yay.
That's something I'm always bringing awareness to with clients, like especially when people are like driving. It's like just relax your shoulders and relax your jaw. And
Yeah,
every single person's like, "Whoa." I
right.
don't
Yeah,
realize how much tension I was holding there.
right. Totally.
It's crazy, but I feel like, especially as women, we fight back on feelings. We don't want to it's not that we don't want to release them, but like we have problems really feeling them for maybe lack of safety, vulnerability, whatever that is. So, when you're talking about these certain things, I'm sure it gets emotional quickly.
Yeah.
You um, do you see when people are able to release, and release doesn't have to be a cry necessarily, but I'm sure that is what happens with a lot of people. Like, what do they usually say after when they're able to kind of fully express maybe things that they didn't even realize were repressed?
Mm. After they're able to release these emotions, they feel so much lighter. It's like, wow, I feel like I can breathe again. Oh my gosh, my voice sounds different.
Hmm.
And that's a huge one in a lot of cases. Wow, my voice sounds so much different than it did yesterday or 3 hours ago or whatever. Um, the heaviness is lifted off their chest, like they don't feel like they're being weighed down. Their shoulders aren't tight anymore. Whether we worked with the shoulders or not, or the voice or anything else, that lightness is every session that comes through at the end. Wow, I feel so much lighter. I let that stuff go and that I didn't need to be holding all this time, or I didn't know I was holding. And so just bringing that awareness to what they've been holding on to and how it is exhibiting in the body now brings them more awareness as they go forward. If they start hunching their shoulders again or their voice starts cracking again, they'd be like, huh, what am I not saying? And one of my big stories is I was dealing with like chronic strep throat off and on for a long time when I was married. And,
Mm,
I'm an herbalist. So I was like, oh, let me do some garlic. Oh, I'm going to do some fire cider, all this stuff. And it was not getting better. And I started thinking back to when it began. And it was when I'd had a disagreement with my ex-husband.
mm,
And so I was like, so I started journaling about it and realized that there were some things I needed to say to him that I had been holding on to for several months, if not years, let's be honest. And finally had the courage to have this conversation. The throat cleared up within 24 hours. Yeah. And I didn't have strep throat again. I haven't had it since. Um, and so then I started noticing every time I'd start to get an inkling of a sore throat, as long as it wasn't smoky. I live in Montana, so we get a lot of wildfire smoke. But anytime I get a sore throat, I'd start thinking about, oh, okay, what's going on, and who am I not speaking my truth to? And
mm,
sometimes it's my own self, but frequently, if I have a sore throat, it's because I'm not saying what I need to someone who's close to me.
mm. Really powerful because I see strep come up not a lot, but a decent amount on scans. And that can
Mm.
wreak havoc on your immune, your whole systemic immune response, right? If that strep really hasn't cleared. But, it's very, say difficult, but sometimes trying to get clients to understand that, yes, from a pathogenic standpoint, we can try to move it or clear it, but there's only so much supplements. This is really gonna, clear it. It's, we're also when we're running the emotional scan, there's almost always going to be something around, you know, perfectionism. I see a lot, not speaking up. not feeling worthy, whatever it is, that's a much harder thing for people because it's like, okay, well then what do I do from there? You
Hmm.
know? Um,
Yeah.
so, but I'm glad you mentioned that because I feel like becoming a more and more of a bigger issue or these, reoccurrent throat issues, especially in the last 5 years. And yes, we can see that 5 years ago something did happen in our entire world that created a
Hmm.
lot of sore throats and colds and
Right.
things like that.
Right.
But a lot of also repression and a lot of, isolation and a lot of change, right? It wasn't just a virus, it was a lot of social, economical, and mental shifts as well. Um, so yeah, that's
Hmm.
just a fascinating thing to kind of weave together and understand how it's all really connected.
Totally. Yeah. And so many people are really surprised by it. Um, especially if I have friends who are, I don't know, I have a lot of friends in the spiritual community, of course. And so, we'll sit down and we'll talk about things. And it's like, oh, is it the full moon? Is it this? Is that? I'm like, what if it's just you not speaking your truth? And they're like, oh, well, or yeah, I did yell at my kid the other day and I didn't really mean to, things like that. And it's like, okay, I'm going to go apologize and then I'll see how I feel, and just that realization is huge, recognizing where we're not, still not speaking our truth, and we're still trying to regulate emotions and our nervous system and all these different things, as just compound in the body. So it's fascinating to help people see that, and to just awaken that muscle memory of re tuning into our own body for the information, because our body's telling us everything we need to know. We haven't learned how to listen to it. I didn't grow up listening to my body. I was definitely taught to move on. You fall down, you scrape your knee, put a band-aid on and move on. You're having your period and getting cramps, suck it up. You're going to work anyway. Or you have a little bit of fever. Oh, well, you'll be fine. Go to school because mom and dad both have to work and we don't have childcare. Right. And that changed drastically within the past 5 years. Where it's like, oh, you're sick? Nope, stay home. It's all good. So, we haven't learned, we weren't taught how to listen to our bodies. And now raising this awareness is huge for our society. And it's such a beautiful thing to see. Um, and hopefully everybody's taking that opportunity to tune in and see what's next. What do I need to do? How can I help my body, whether it's nutrition or exercise or crying, journaling,
Yeah,
any of that, singing, chanting. Yeah.
totally. So
Yeah.
often I'm telling clients, go and cry. Go cry. Don't exercise. They're like, what? I'm like, yes, please. You need
Right.
that way more than you need that, this right now, but
Yeah.
reconnecting with what our body really needs versus what our mind thinks it needs.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure. Yeah. I'm all like, go put on a sappy movie and do the ugly cry because you need that right now. Or, go get some cheap dishes at the thrift store and just throw them and scream. You're doing it, right? I was telling a lady that yesterday. I'm like, you need to go throw some stuff and let this frustration out of your body. And
yeah.
she's like, but and she's so sweet. She's like, I'm not a screamer. I don't yell. I'm like, then go get some dishes, put a tarp down, and just throw that shit against a wall somewhere. She's like, okay.
Now there's like rage rooms you can go to.
Oh, right, totally.
Maybe not in where you're at, but
No.
no, and people I guarantee I don't know anybody that's been like, nope, I don't feel better after that. It's
Oh
like
my gosh, right? Yeah, absolutely. It's huge because we're just holding on to so much. And
yes,
if we're not vocalizing things, that just leads to so many other things going on in the body. It's just holding on to it somewhere. So, Important stuff, and we don't even realize how important it is. And I think the throwing thing, especially, it reminds so many people maybe of violence or something. I'm like, well, you're not throwing dishes at a person, you're throwing it against a wall or the fence or so.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny though. I feel like some people are gonna be like, yeah, that sounds good. I should do it. I should do that. That's a great idea of just going to like the thrift shop too.
Oh, totally. Oh my gosh. When I got divorced, I was having a really rough day and I had gone to kickboxing, which was really helpful. Just expressing, punching the bag, getting that stress out. And I was like, I need more. Like, I'm really frustrated. And so I knew the owner of the thrift store. I'm like, I just need to break something. And she's like, all right, I'll set you up. She got a tote. She put, oh my gosh, she filled it up. And it was a huge relief. I couldn't even, I never would have expected it, but I knew that I needed to do something more physical as well as vocal. And so I was able to just scream and throw the dishes down on my patio. It was awesome.
Oh
So
my God.
healing.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes me wanna. I don't even have really any aggression. I'm sure there's some down there, but it just kind of sounds like fun.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
no, but I think it's really important talking about these different, I don't want to say lesser, well, they are lesser known, modalities to really understanding what healing means, right?
Mhm.
On a soul level. So I appreciate you, bringing in, weaving some of these, modalities and bringing some light to some lesser known modalities to, our
Yep.
listeners. So, but if people wanted to learn a little bit more about what you do, where can they find and connect with you?
So my website is elementalmagic.net, and magic is Magick. And yeah, so I have some private sessions on there, one-on-one sessions. I have a group program called Awakening the Forgotten You. And yeah, I do all kinds of different things here and there, one-off master classes and webinars and different trainings. So it's all so much fun.
Well, amazing. Thank you so much for being here. I will put her information down in the show notes so you guys can find her, connect with her. And otherwise, I appreciate you being here, spending some of your afternoon with me. Listeners, of course, thank you for always being here as well. And we'll catch you on the next show.
Thank you. Have a great day.